old jumper going back to our Maybloom's era, which is an era that was just prior to the career of the trainer, John Kennedy Sr. I call him the godfather of our footy club because he probably changed the tone of Hawthorn. And despite having individual success himself, he realised this game is a team sport and it's no good unless we have collective success.
Any first gamers first to play AFL football and first to play for Hawthorn, for a club like Hawthorn. You can't say to a player, I want you to go out and kick 6 goals. But you can say you've got to do the fundamentals. We all can chase and we can all pick up our man and we can all do those basic things. And if we don't do them Saturday night, we're in trouble.
Welcome back to Talking Footy. An icon of the game, Alastair Clarkson, a 4-time premiership coach in his own right. First time I've seen that, Clarko. That is a magic moment. To be able to share that history with his playing group, you must have loved every bit of that.
Yeah, well, Duck and I both started our careers at North Melbourne. He's our first coach, yeah. And it's just ironic that I came down to Melbourne to play footy. Kanga was my first coach. David Parkin was my lecturer at uni. So I, unbeknown to me, I ended up coaching the club that those two guys had such a history with. And for Kanga to still come in and present Guernseys to our younger players and is really special and gave a pretty significant message. When we talked to Adelaide with us, said if we don't chase and tackle, we're not going to win. So we made sure we did that well on the weekend.
Clarko, you said yourself last year that you needed some time to work out whether you were the right fit to stay at Hawthorn. When and how did you eventually come to that decision?
Oh, it's a tough question. Probably the results will unfold over the next couple of years. You know, I signed a new contract, and probably by the end of this contract, if Hawthorn haven't been able to look like they're giving themselves a chance to win silverware, then it's probably time for me to move on. But whilst there's still an appetite for to grow some of these younger players and find the new generation of players, you know, I'd want to make sure the club is in a really good position to hand over to the next person to take charge. Not
sure what you thought of the rules, how many games you saw across the weekend, but we were told with these new rules it was all about more goals. Scoring was actually down across the competition compared to last year. Is that a surprise to you?
Yeah, well, what's a surprise is scoring was up this time last year. And so it seems to have made an about shift, but let's just give it the passage of time. You know, it probably needs 3 or 4 games into the season to actually get a feel for what the trends are. You know, one game is just too short a time span to determine what's going to go on. But there's some really competitive games on the weekend. There's a couple of blowouts yesterday, but by and large the games were pretty competitive up until that point in time. And I'd expect that we'll find a more natural fit of what the game's going to look like in about 4 or 5 weeks' time.
How did you see the skill level over the first round? Did you, like you said, did you watch many games?
It was pretty scratchy. Like our game was pretty scratchy. I watched the Pies and Cats, and you know, we've all got high regard for both those sides, and the amount of mistakes, just simple drop marks that I don't know whether players just where the ball's a little bit slippery or a little bit complacent, just thought they'd take it and move on. But there was a lot of errors, but I think there always is in the first game of the season. I reckon the game itself ramps up about, I don't know what a percentage would be, but maybe 30% above what you get in the JLT, and just some players aren't ready for it. In addition to that, you're playing. You know, the game goes to about 130 minutes in the first round of the season, sometimes more than that, and you're probably used to playing, maybe 110 minutes. So even that extra 15 or 20 minutes of game time, really finds players and teams out.
Clarko, when Tom Mitchell went down, did you just say to yourself immediately, I've got the replacement for him, James Worpel? He's just going to step in and he's going to do everything that Tom Mitchell's done and probably a little bit more.
Well, he's going to get more opportunity without a doubt. I mean, but he got opportunities last year. He played 11 games for our footy club last year in his first year and did some good things. But probably the thing that he did over the course of the last year is just get the belief that he could compete at the level. But when Tom went down, we knew that it was going to take a series of players to probably share that workload. And you know, there's another young fella, James Cousins, another young lad who didn't play on the weekend that perhaps deserved to, in Harry Jones, who's had a really good summer, and Harry Morrison's had a good summer, and he played on the weekend but more on the wing than he did inside. So we've got a number of young players that need to fill that void at some point throughout this season. It's a long, hard season. Then Warpie's probably going to battle, and we're going to need others to fill the void, and so we need to share that responsibility rather. Tom was a pretty seasoned body and was able to play week in, week out pretty strongly for us, but as a young player like Warple, he really battled Tom at the Sydney Swans to have the durability to play, and it's only been in his last couple of years that he's actually really been able to build that durability, and Warpie and some of these other young players will be the same, I'm sure.
There's a lot of momentum growing for Tasmania to have its own standalone team, which is a little awkward for Hawthorn because you've done such a great job down there. Do you personally support the idea of Tassie having its own team? Yeah,
well, it's not awkward at all, really. I mean, the economic environment and the viability of a side in Tassie right now isn't strong. There's a lot of noise around them wanting their own team, and that's got more government and business support now than perhaps it's ever had. But Hawthorn have always been in the mode of if a team's going to be played out of Tassie, then we're happy to get out of Tasmania. But until that is the case, then Hawthorn and the Kangaroos are both providing what Tasmania haven't got at the moment, and that's some exposure to AFL footy. And we've been down there for the best part of 15 years now, and have played in excess of 60 or 70 games of footy down there, and we've got a tremendous amount of support. We've got something like 10,000 members who support the club, and we've had a long connection with Tassie through a lot of players that have come from Tasmania, and we'll continue to play down there for as long as Tassie haven't got a side. But as soon as the AFL deems it necessary to have a 19th team in the competition, and that club happens to be from Tasmania, then it'll probably mean that Hawthorn return to Melbourne to play all their home games.
Clark, you've been ahead of the curve in many assets of the game. You've had Jordan Lewis move clubs and Sam Mitchell. Difficult conversations, I imagine, even if they work out positively for all concerned, and maybe sit down with Jared Ruffhead last year. How difficult do you find that, and how much of a balance is it around trading in gun new players and holding on to those guys that have been so good for you?
Yeah, well, I don't think they're tough conversations at all, especially when they've been guys that have played at your footy club for 10, 12, 14 years, and they've given so much service to the club. So part of the reason for meeting with those guys, and it was a discussion with Ruffy, I think it was about August of last year, all the guys, when we had those discussions, still had time to go on their contract, so it wasn't like they've only got a month to go and gee, you better get going, otherwise we're not going to contract you for next year. They all had time left on their contract, but given the service that they've given to our footy club, we wanted to give them the opportunity to have some sort of say in what their exit from the football club would look like. Was that going to be retirement, which looks like that's going to be with Ruffy, that he'll retire a Hawthorn player, because at the end of last year, just like it was with Jordan and Hodgie and Mitch, highly decorated servants of our club, we wanted them to have some sort of discussion with their decision making and our decision making. So Ruffy decided to stay. Sam and Jordan both decided to explore opportunities elsewhere. Hodgie decided to retire, and then he decided to come back again. So it's all the outcomes are all different in different sorts of ways. But what we've been really pleased we've been able to do with these guys is look them in the eye and allow them the opportunity to be involved in what their future looks like.
A little bit left field. Is it true that Hawthorn, when you travel, you make the guys order a meal, so you don't do what most clubs do when they travel and have the buffet?
Buffet's just for the coaches, Dave.
Is that just for the coaches? No, so they order a main meal. They order an entree and a main meal, but they don't have what every other club has, and that's where they just go up and have the full buffet.
No, we've tried to different ways of doing our meals.
That's just
We usually find, and I'm laughing about the coaches because
You eat far too much.
we come back about 2 kilos heavier each time you travel in the
No, but it is
state.
interesting because and I heard this and I thought, well, they're the little things though, and especially when you travel, because you're right. And
You've had this theory for about 5. He reckons the buffet kills the interstate travellers.
They wonder why clubs can't win in the state. They come over and they eat bread and butter pudding for sweets. They wouldn't normally cook that at home, would they?
No, that's right. The hard part about travelling in the state is actually around your routine.
Yeah.
Different beds, different arrangements in terms of your preparation, and part of that is food. So
you have trialled it?
We've trialled it, but we went to Adelaide on the weekend and the buffet was still there. So we told the guys not to eat too much, but they didn't order their own. It was just provided.
Okay. Clark, have you got a coach's block when you get together as a group and you know how many coaches are going to vote alongside you? It's called the Hawthorn Mafia. I don't know whether you've heard it or not, but every coach that's been associated with you, apparently that you vote as a group. You weren't successful with your runners, but I put it to you that you and Hawthorn are probably one of the beneficiaries of this rule, because your team is so well drilled and coached that it probably doesn't require the use of a runner like a lot of other teams would. Would you agree with that?
Possibly. I actually agree with the philosophy of reducing the runners significantly to the game.
Yeah.
What I was arguing was that just the perhaps volatility of going from having access to a full-time runner 15 times a quarter or thereabouts, and then dropping that all the way back to effectively zero, because the.
Do you reckon it influenced the footy at the weekend at all?
Well, once again, it's only
a small sample,
one game of footy in a small sample size, so I couldn't speak to enough games. I hardly noticed it in our game, but there were times that we would have liked to have been able to send a message and we couldn't. But it's not for me. That wasn't what we're debating with the AFL. It was just how quickly they were going to go from having complete access. I mean, we've got to think about the demands of the game. I mean, I heard last week that there's a junior football competition down the southeast that are going to abandon the runner as well. And it's just like... Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Yeah. You just need kids to be directed. But I think going from... our game, gridiron. The coach has got access to the quarterback side, and in basketball there's only 5 on the court. Soccer, you're on the sideline. You can talk. Our game's the biggest pitch in world sport. 18 players on the field, many of them coming into the game at 18 years of age. There's actually a good reason why you'd want them to have some direction, but I agree. Having a runner out on the ground 15 times a quarter is no good. I reckon 5 times a quarter. But I defy anyone that actually goes to a game and walks away saying, geez, that game was no good. That pink runner out on the ground, he just got on the road all the time. And outside of perhaps being highlighted a little bit by media who thought that a guy might have been on the ground for too long and say, was he blocking some space? I mean, it happens maybe twice a year. Is that dramatic enough? We got...
You never directed the runner to do that? Never to go out there and hide in a sit in a spot?
I reckon there's been an overreaction, and Hock won't like me saying this, but I reckon there's been an overreaction to this push to clear the game up. Trainers, now we've got issues with water apparently. Doctors have now got to sit actually in the box where now they can't see clearly because of the amount of interchanges going on in front of them. All doctors and physios used to sit just out to the side in front of the fence, but they've now been instructed they've got to get inside the box. And now you've got a safety issue. The doctors actually need to be seeing the game. They need to see the types of injuries. What happened to Alex Rance? How did he do his knee? Has he done his knee? And they've got to be making calls. And if they can... I just think there's been an overreaction to try to clear the game of people. You can nearly have you got 4 blokes that can go out there and hold the banner up at quarter time, and you're only allowed 6 coaches on the ground itself. You know, we'll be employing coaches to be banner boys next.
And on banners, as an extension of the runner rule, we've now got all these signs being held up on the boundary line, lightning bolts and emojis and speed limit signs. Do we really want footage or images like this in our game?
Tell us what all these mean.
Is that 10 minutes to go or number 10 come off?
Yeah, it's hard to work out. All the individual clubs will be able to work out. We're going back to our little postie sticker notes. We did that when we had that interchange under Adrian Henderson for a time.
I don't know whether you heard before. Do you think players have got too much power in the game now?
Oh, it's an interesting debate. I was actually part of the Players Association when we had a significant push to actually try to get a little bit more say in the game. But yeah, I think there always can be an overreaction sometimes to these sorts of things, and I think we've just got to try and get the balance. We're all key stakeholders of the game. It seems to me right at the present time that the stakeholders of the players is perhaps a little bit higher than some of the other more significant stakeholders in the game, and we just got to get the balance right.
Clarko, we'd love to speak to you for an hour every time we're here, and we always run out of time. And I know Mick's got a couple of rapid-fire questions, maybe 1 sentence per answer. We'll let Mick want to take it away.
When will we see Tom Scully playing seniors or even Box Hill?
Yeah, he'll play footy in the next 2 weeks. So whether that's at Box Hill or Hawthorn, but unless there's a hiccup, we're looking forward to the same with Wingard.
Interstate clubs are saying that they want a best-of-3 grand final series. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually like the idea of the concept. How it would work, I'm not too sure. But yeah, the actual concept of it, I think it's right around world sport outside the EPL, which don't even have a final series. But I think world sport, and it'd be good to see a best-of-3 or a best-of-5. But in our game, how do you do that? I'm not too sure.
What about the concept of AFLX?
AFLX, I think, is a great concept, particularly for young kids. I really like the concept for it for women too. High scoring, smaller pitch, younger players at AFL level. Certainly as a training concept and a game for. I think it's a great concept. How it fits into the schedule of our season, I reckon it had whiskers on it, putting it in February. But you know, the fans seem to like it, particularly the young kids, and I think there's a place for it. But the hard part that the AFL is wrestling with is just where does it fit, and it's a very, very difficult dilemma to try to solve that one.
Last one, do you share Jeff Kennett's frustrations with head office?
What Jeff always talks about is healthy tension, both within our club. We and him had some healthy tension at various stages, and that with the AFL. And so that healthy tension is just respect for. We've got enormous respect for the AFL. Jeff has as well. But when there's things that we think that need to be challenged, we'll challenge, and that's what happened. 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, with all the coaches with the AFL around the runners. It was healthy tension. They need to know our views on where we see things, and when there's good, respectful discussion like that, I think it's good for the game rather than holding it back.
We have to let you go, but racism reared its ugly head again at the weekend. What can we do to stamp it out?
Oh, yeah, it's so disappointing. I watched a lot of world sport, and our game hasn't been fortunate enough to have a lot of different cultures. Up until the last 20 years, a lot of different cultures influencing our game. And we're a pretty bland game for a long period of time, and the most significant change to our game has been the injection of Aboriginal talent. And we're hoping now it'll be even more multicultural, and that's especially with the Sudanese and the Mad Jack Dawes and the Alir Alirs, and we've got a young bloke, CJ, who's... I can't even pronounce his name properly. I just call him CJ. He's a little ripper. But hopefully that a multicultural slant comes into our game and has significant impact too. But yeah, so we just got to educate and.
Call it out. Is that the right way to handle it?
Well, I think it's not so much calling it out in terms of we can't control the guys on the keyboards. That's up to them. What we need to call out is just celebrating how impactful these guys and how great they've been for a game. I can't think of what our game would be like without the Indigenous influence over the last 40 years. It has been sensational. And Hawthorn have had some rippers, and you know I spoke about it this afternoon. We played against Eddie Betts on the weekend. Now, we have to use Ben Stratton nearly every time we play against him. Our best defender is our captain, but Eddie has been such a star, and our game has been better for his and many other Indigenous boys and their involvement in our game.
Well said, Clark. I've got a solution. If you're an online troll and you're a racist, we find out who you are and we send Clarko around, knock on your door, and we get a bit of accountability. It might stop straight away. Thanks for joining us. It's always a great pleasure to have access to you, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Good on you, boys. Thank you.
Superstar coach of the Hawthorn Football Club. Up next, we're launching our brand new segment. Jack Watts.